Hello, YouTubers and fellow tankers. I am Shrine King, and welcome to King's Court Reviews in World of Tanks. So, for those who are first-time comers, basically what I do is I do a review and a guide to say like what are the pros, the cons, what best modules, if it's like premium, is the premium worth it, how does it like how well does it generate like for cash or experience. And then like kind of also give some tips towards, if you're in a bad matchup or what tanks to pay attention to that are going to be bad for you while playing the particular tank. So today we're going to talk about the Centurion 5-1. That is a tier 8 premium, English premium for a medium. And a lot of people who've played actually are aware of the Centurions in the English line. So to cover pros, the armor is actually really good on it, especially on the turret. Now for this one, it actually has decent armor on the top of the hull, but the lower glacis is definitely a weak spot. So you don't want to give away your lower glacis. Now, even though the top plate is armored, it doesn't mean it's the best armament possible. So like you'll see, like it's 120 millimeters with angling. You're looking at probably about 160. It's got an extra plate there too, so it actually probably is around more like 180 to 200. But you'll see that the turret's at 254, and with angling you're looking at over 300, which means it will hold up even against tier 10s. Now, the gun is just awesome. So it's highly accurate, quick reload. It has 226 penetration, which is not bad, especially at tier 8. And then you're looking at 230 damage, average damage. So that means that this thing, while it doesn't do high alpha in a single shot, it is able to put out numerous shots over and over and over again, really punishing tanks that would be out in the open. It is mobile. Now, it's not super fast, but it's able to definitely get around, especially for something that's got armor. So then on top of that, it's got decent hit points for the tier, and you have good view range. Now, the camo rating is probably something that's a little more lackluster. So if I was getting into cons, I would say, well, one, camo rating is definitely part of the con. It wouldn't be as high as you would want, but it's still not horrible by any means. The tank has how to put it. So because the alpha side of it, I would say, is another con. Tanks aren't always staying out in the open, so being able to knock someone for the 240 is nice. But the truth is, most of them you're gonna only get to hit once, and then they're just gonna hide. And that's a different, like, that's kind of depending on your play style. If you get lucky and people are staying out in the open, it's definitely great. And here I'm showing a comparison against the Centurion, the actual line itself, and you'll see that the average damage isn't all that great. The turret, you get basically the similar turret. You actually get basically the exact same turret with the same view range, and then the gun is actually exactly the same when you get to it. So overall, this thing is really a good matchup for the Centurion 1. The Centurion 5-1 is basically the same deal. It's just your premium, and you're actually going to get all the like crew experience and stuff like that. Now, one thing I will note is it does look like the engine in the Centurion 1 is definitely better. So when you get that engine, and the Centurion 1, the actual online, you will actually be a lot faster. And then when you talk about the Centurion 7-1, which is the tier 9, that thing just gets ridiculous. The gun is a monster. So you'll see that it's got 390 with 268 pen, and then it still has a like almost the same fire rate, which is pretty sweet. Other cons to this tank. Trying to think exactly what else I would consider as a con. So I would say that the specific power to it is not necessarily that great. It could have been better. What that means is it takes a little while for it to get up to speed, but I mean it's not bad. Other things to it is if you do get like side shots and things like that into you, you're going to run into some problems. The side armor is extremely weak, so you can't really side scrape with it. Nor can you really, nor would you ever really want to give away your side. Now, this thing, the other side of this though is like as you see here, I'm making sure to use the depression, so it has very good depression. And here's where I'm talking about the reload speed's just awesome. So you see, I already knocked that guy once, and then I knocked him again. I'm about to knock him one more time. And actually, and you'll see I'm kind of just using the angle here, so I'm bouncing a lot from the targets. Now the Maushan, it's got a scary gun for sure, and you'll see that the upper Glacius, they technically would be able to get a shot, but with the angling that I have right now, it would be really, really nice. And you'll see I'm able to pick out shots all over the place. Now, by the way, you'll see that some of these shots I'm aiming, they are yellow. Yellow doesn't mean it's not worth taking the shot. There is a chance that it can pen. What it means, though, is it's basically about 50-50. Where if it's green, like that, you're probably looking at like 80 or higher chance to penetrate. So that's definitely way better. Now, you'll also see I did swap to premium on this for certain tanks. So, for example, that Maushan is definitely a prime tank to be running the premium against, because he's definitely dangerous with the amount of armor that he has. So, really that's the gist of the tank for its pros and cons. Now, if I were to talk about tanks that you want to watch out for, one, heavily armored tanks that are just going to be a real pain to try to penetrate on their own. Especially ones that have bigger guns, such as like the Maushan, for example. So right here, for example, you'll see the Maushan is taking a shot at me. He's using AP. Now, here's the catch. Because I have heavier armor on my turret, because all you can see is my turret, the reason why the Maushan would be a bad matchup is, one, it's hard for me to try to penetrate him. And two, all he has to do is swap to high explosives, and he can start whittling me down bit by bit just by hitting me through my turret. So other tanks that you want to watch out for are the ones that definitely have the penetration to knock you even through your turret. Now, they're going to aim for like Kuplas and stuff like that. So now you'll see, this is what I'm talking about. So the Maushan swapped to high explosives. So now he's able to hit me. You'll see that he did 230 damage. That's nothing to blink an eye at. Now that's half the damage that he normally would have done if it was armor penetrating. But I can't sit here and keep taking damage like this. So that's what he's doing. So he got smart. And that's exactly what I would expect. So based on the way it goes, but you'll see here, I'm able to like go backwards pretty quick and things like that. So that's where usually the way that you're playing the tank is you're gonna be playing up a hill. So going back is actually pretty quick, and then allows you to kind of do the pop shots and things like that. So other tanks that you want to watch out for are the ones that definitely just have the penetration to get you even through your turret. So what we're talking about is like tier 10 tank destroyers, in particular tier 9 tank destroyers. Anything that's going to have probably over 270 penetration. The reason being is because for them, on a 270 penetration, shooting your turret is just yellow, which means eventually they will most likely roll high and they will knock your turret for all the damage. And when they're those tanks, that damage is not something to blink an eye at. So, other than that, most tanks you're not going to run into too many problems. The ones that you definitely want to be careful, or situations you want to be careful of, is being in a situation where your opponent can actually start driving against you. Now see here, this guy keeps knocking me, and I think it's actually because he's getting into the side of my tank. So, but you'll see overall, I mean, blocked 3,000, did 1,300 damage, spotted 300. Not amazing. I think that was actually one of my first matches in the tank. But, I mean, that's just the way that it goes. So, guide on how to play the tank. One, you want to go into hills. Hills are definitely a very key thing. If you can't get into hills, you want to use things that are going to kind of cover up your lower glacis, and actually hopefully part of your upper glacis, if not all of your upper glacis. And again, like I said, while you do have armor on your upper glacis, there are plenty of tanks, especially at tier 9, tier 10, that can nail you right through your upper glacis, no problem. So you don't want to get stuck in that kind of situation. Now, as I mentioned though, like you always want to try to stick to the hills with cover and stuff like that. So you'll see here I'm getting into like a hill position. Now, strangely enough, this position, what I'm doing is I'm making sure to have the proper angle from my upper glacis, hopefully if this guy rolls back, right? But at the same time, keeping it to where I would be able to take a shot into the opponent in these particular areas. Now this map design no longer exists, so you can't do what I'm doing here. And yeah, funny enough, I thought I was going to take a shot there. But that's the typical model that you're going to do with this tank. The other thing is you definitely don't want to hold still very often. Like your Kupla is definitely a part that people can aim at. So the more that you're kind of moving around and wiggling around, so for example here, you'll see I'm not going to poke all the way out. What I'm trying to do is use the angle of my plate to let him fire at it to where he wouldn't be able to knock it. Now here, I probably should have waited a little more before I came out. What I see here is that this guy can't actually shoot me, if you see that part. So he's got his rear, now I see he's pulled forward. Now I didn't back up fast enough. I should have backed up sooner. What would have happened is he wouldn't have had enough to actually see on my plate. And by the plate I mean like the upper glacis and the lower glacis plates. Because of the angling, what would happen is as I pull back, all he's got is the far side of it, kind of like what you saw right there, and then what happens is he can't penetrate that at all. It'll all be deflection. So that's kind of like in the event that you're in a situation where you just don't really have the kind of cover you would need, this is a model that you can do. So you'll see here, yeah, okay, he tracked me. Even if he didn't track me, if he would have aimed at my plates, all that would happen is he just deflects it anyway. So not something for me to be worried about. Now with the hill, the key things with the hills, the way that works is you have so much depression, you want to make sure to always try to aim as far down as you can. And then on top of that, right, you want to always keep it to where it's the bare minimum that you can come out and spot, right? If you're looking too far, or I'm sorry, if you have a lot of vision, like right here I can see like everything, right? That's not what you want. You want it to be where it's bare minimum amount of view, right? So you want it to be where you're kind of just trying to pick out as little much of the tank as possible, where you can't even, hopefully you can't even really see it, right? Hopefully the grass itself is tall enough covering the target. And the reason being is because all that means is they can barely see you. And your tank specializes in that kind of warfare where you're able to pick out and snipe. And most likely they don't have that potential like you do. And the other part is all they're going to be able to do is see the very tip of your turret, and they got to try to knock your turret that way, which most cases it's going to be deflection. Like it's just going to bounce right off of it. So that's the typical gist of what you want to play for the tank. Now, key things besides those with high penetration, besides those that would try to brawl with you, the other thing that you want to always bear in mind, so like for example, here's the Roomba. If he's like, what I do know is one, if he's got the one gun, which it looks like he does, he could, if he actually penetrated me, got my side, it would be a very bad day, because that's a lot of damage. Now, with that said, I also know that with that gun, if he's not running high explosives, he's only got 210 penetration, which means chances are he can't even pen the top of my upper glacis. So as long as he doesn't get a shot like that, I should be okay. Now, auto loaders and stuff like that, those are the ones that you want to also be careful about. The reason is because a lot of times what you get is you get the martyr auto loader, the one that's going to charge at you, get into the side, and he's just going to unload into you, doing a bunch of damage. So you want to try to keep your distance. That's the other thing to kind of keep in mind with this tank. This tank excels at distance fighting because of the gun. You don't want to try to go pushing up and being super aggressive. Can you do it? Yes, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it if you want to go for highest performance in the tank. You always want to try to keep your distance from your opponent, make your accuracy work for you, and theirs work against them. So, again, I hope this is great stuff for you guys. If we're talking about the line, there's not a lot of tier 8s that you can run for it. So highly recommend the tank. It's got great potential for credits. And it's great for experiencing your crew, especially for like Cromwells and stuff like that as you're going through that line. So thanks again. Like, subscribe. Catch you next time.